So it's February and about a week away from Valentine's Day, which is my second favorite holiday. I've painted sloppy little hearts on my nails. Normally, I would be making a short film. Last year, I did Snail Mail with one of my best friends, Bongani Musa. I just love love and want to celebrate it all the time. But if I step outside my romantic delusion, I do see the consequence of heartbreak. In 2022, I went through a pretty major breakup, and this impending truth that love isn't guaranteed, that I could go my whole life without meeting someone who wants me to stick around, has been something I've been trying to deal with. I've realized there's a difference between dating someone who is in our relationship because I've provided an openness for them to fully be themselves, versus someone who is in our relationship because they actually like me. Unfortunately, almost every single ex falls into that first category. I'm not too sure why it took me so long to realize this, but I thought I would share with you the thoughts that followed that discovery. My initial reaction was, if most people I've dated have liked themselves more than they've liked me, is there anything likable about me at all? Am I not that interesting, or perhaps no good? Well, I can't imagine that's the case, because I like my mind. I think I'm a creative thinker and I have endless questions for the world around us. Quite frankly, it doesn't matter if this comes across as boasting, but I am also compassionate and patient and not afraid of intimacy. So if I can say all those things, perhaps the question isn't what is unlikable about me. Perhaps it is what has been lacking in others that only I possess. I made a list where there were some big things like a love for nature or being spiritual, but there was also small nitpicky things on it as well, like the patience to go thrifting. I know that sounds silly, but all of these people I went on dates with or actually dated, whenever I tried to take them thrifting, they made me feel so rushed, made it quite known that they were bored, that they didn't want to look at women's clothing. And at some point or another, I always ended up feeling bad for bringing them at all. But when I got to thinking about that, there was lots of stuff that I didn't want to do, but still was as engaged as I could be because seeing them happy made me happy. And ultimately, it wasn't about me, it was about their experience. I wanted to allow a space for happiness, and that's not something I got back. And when I try to think about the root of what all of this means, these little issues with thrifting, nature, spirituality, it all goes into the rhythm of life, the general way I pace myself. Something I've felt in all my past relationships has been a lack of appreciation. I'm the kind of person that when my partner is just simply existing, I look at them like they are the beginning and the end of the world. If I'm grocery shopping, I find their favorite snack. If I'm outside, I pick a flower for them. I will intentionally go out of my way to find songs that they would like. Whereas my partners didn't even know what I liked. And I often felt like when they looked at me, they felt nothing. I think the reason my pace of life has allowed for a lot more appreciation is because I have purposely slowed it down. I try to walk through this world very cognitive of my five senses. I'm always aware of what the sky looks like. I know what kind of smells are around me and what my clothes feel like on my body. I always try to find things to appreciate, and this has been such a huge thing for my mental health. I talk about it quite openly, but I tried to commit suicide when I was younger, and I have struggled with clinical depression my entire life. This sort of lifestyle change has really helped with that, and all of my exes have had a more rushed pace of life. They've moved through it a little bit more selfishly and have had quite cynical ways of thinking. And I'm not saying that's a wrong way to be. All of those kinds of attributes gave them a great job and high self-esteem, and they were great conversationalists. It's just that for me, it left such a lack in love. Now, what I'm about to share is very intimate, but I'm assuming if you're already here in the video, you're prepared. I kept digging through my brain when I got here. I thought, why do I keep seeking out these people? Because I can't blame them for finding me and breaking my heart. I chose to be in these relationships, and I chose to be in them as long as I wanted. So why did I seek them out? Why was I going after people that liked themselves more than they liked me? Well, that's how I've always known how to hold connections. When I was younger, I really didn't feel like people cared about me. Growing up in a foster home, I was the forgotten child, and I struggled to convince my parents to love me, but if I could help or serve them in some way, at least they'd pay attention. If I could be used as an earpiece or labor, then they wanted me around. So I learned that love comes from what I can do for other people. So then I grow up as an adult and meet these people that I can help feel better about themselves and make their lives happier, and have had this belief that in this position, they'll want me to stick around. They'll love me back. I found this connected to emotional unavailability too. Now, what I'm about to say sounds bad, and I'm aware of it, but just bear with me for a second. In my life, I found myself having crushes on people who either lived far away or were already in relationships. Now, I would never do something to be a homewrecker, and I never have, but I recognized this pattern a couple years ago. And when I was in therapy and talked to my therapist about it, I kind of just came to the conclusion that it was because love is safer from afar. How can someone break my heart if I don't give it to them fully? But in present day, I've realized there's a little bit more to it than that. It sounds sad, but I think I just wanted someone to like the real me. I wanted to connect with somebody who didn't have access to my body, who couldn't rely on me to make their lives better, and already had a network to do so. Someone who chooses to stick around just based on who I am as a person. And that's the thing I've been craving this whole time. Okay, so we are at the core, we are at the bone of my brain. In an attempt to give myself some aftercare as well as break the cycle, I thought I would share with you some reminders I've given myself. 1, you have to let go of the illusion that it could have been any different. My patterns and behaviors in relationships, what I've accepted from other people, all the emotions that were involved, they all led to this moment, and they were all necessary to get to this version of myself. 2, heartbreak is grief. For a period of time, it'll make you feel like you can't stand up straight, like you need to throw up and potentially set fire to things. For me personally, I never feel angrier than when I'm heartbroken. It is intense and it is raw, and eventually it stops. You just have to feel everything your body wants you to feel and release it in some healthy way. 3, what's difficult to find in somebody right now won't be forever. A quick example of this for me has been the topic of kids. Ever since I was a teenager, I was quite aware that I didn't want children. There's a bunch of reasons as to why that is, but the main one has to do with the fact that I was in a foster home, always the oldest child. I had spent my entire adolescence being a parent. I feel like I already was one and don't want to continue that into my adulthood. I found it so difficult to meet someone who didn't want kids, let alone just didn't care if they had them. There are times I'd go on dates with people and it would be a big debate and they would try to convince me I'm wrong. Whereas now, in 2023, so much has happened in our world politically. COVID really brought the worst out in people, and our economy is shit. There's so much oppression around and a bunch of laws popping up to prevent equality. My experience with dating now is that nobody wants kids. So sometimes the world will impact your dating experience, and maybe right now is tough, but it won't always be. 4, there's a difference between red flags and baggage. The term red flag has been very buzzworthy on the internet lately, but sometimes things are just baggage. So a red flag, for example, that is a warning sign. Perhaps you're a woman on a date with a man and a misogynistic joke slips out. To me, that's a red flag. That is him saying something from an unconscious belief and him exposing that he probably won't respect you because of your gender. Baggage, on the other hand, is you're on a date with some guy and he tells you he still talks to his ex frequently because they bought a cat together and they both love this cat and it moves between house to house. That's not something that has to be a warning sign. It is just a little bit complicated, and baggage comes up more and more as you get older in the dating scene. 5, if I'm breaking cycles, I require my partner to do the same. For an interpersonal example, my mom's side of the family immigrated to Canada from Hungary. There is excruciating feminine pain on that side of my family. My mom, my grandma, my aunts, almost everyone has been sexually assaulted. Just so much has went wrong in all of their lives, only due to the fact that they're women. And so I am always aware of that when interacting with other people. Especially on feminist issues, I can feel very easily triggered. I'm at a point where I can quickly identify, is this something inside of me that I need to look at? Or is it this external force that I need to communicate with and potentially help correct? As an example, completely outside of myself, I was listening to the psychology podcast on connections and relationships. She touched on generational trauma, but she also explored generational behaviors. She gave an example of this man who both of his parents are divorced and his father cheated on his mother. He not only has his dad's blue eyes, he has his dad's blue wandering eyes. If one of your parents has cheated or your grandparents, you are more likely to yourself. And if you come from divorced parents, you're more likely to leave or abandon relationships. Whereas if your parents are still together, you're more likely to stick it out. Behaviors and trauma goes back through family lineage, and it is important to realize how that affects you. because it will affect who you bring into your life. 6, if your connection requires self-abandonment, it is not going to work. It is not uncommon to hear the experience of, when a breakup occurs, someone feeling like a shell of themselves. They've lost themselves and they've had to find themselves again. To get to that point, you must have been abandoning yourself little by little along the way. It is one thing to compromise here and there on different lifestyles or opinions to learn from. It is another to give away the parts of yourself. The bow to tie all of this together is sloppy, but I will do my best. Going forward in a relationship, I want to be with someone that I can be a genuine friend to without anything else on the table. And if it takes a long time to find this person, I don't want to let this impending doom that love isn't guaranteed influence me to settle in a different direction. Right now, I quite like being single. It has been really fun making more of these videos, taking myself on self dates, and just in general, writing more. And if you find yourself single on Valentine's Day as well, just know that this is a day for love. And that doesn't mean love for other people. It just means love in general. Buy yourself something nice, have your favorite meal, do a face mask or a little something in bed. You deserve it. That is all for this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to hit the like button, comment, subscribe, all that shit. And I will see you in a couple weeks. Bye.